Minister, we're really very delighted to have you, and no grilling. A few, tough questions, but I promise no grilling. You don't really need any introduction, but you were the former Minister of Justice. You were active in the ANC Youth League. You're a lawyer, so anything I throw at you, you'll, I'm sure, throw back much more at me. I did want to start, we want to talk about the G20 and we want to talk about multilateralism, but I did want to start that infamous meeting in the Oval Office. You were there. The day after that meeting, the FT wrote an editorial that began with the words, there's no white genocide in South Africa, but there has been a mugging in the Oval Office. You were mugged, yeah? Can you just take us back to that moment? And my broader question is, how do you salvage the relationship after that? Because you were mugged.
Thank you very much, David, and to all the audience, the UN Deputy Secretary General. It's an honor for us to be here.
Thank you.
And we're glad that the lights are on.
The lights are on.
Yeah. Indeed, it was a surprise.
Yes.
For us, particularly the videos that were blatantly false.
Yes.
And not correct. But we continue to view the U.S. as a strategic partner to our economy. There is lives and livelihoods that are empowered by the American investment in our country. 600 U.S. companies invested in the South African economy. So that's why the relationship remains very strategic. But we also understand that the relationship with the U.S. is not only at the White House. Congress, companies that are investing in our country, civil society, and the U.S. is one of the biggest countries which had the anti-apartheid movement. Mm-hmm. So there is still life beyond the White House. So we still continue to recalibrate the relationship, and U.S. companies still continue to invest in our country, even beyond the Oval Office. Microsoft did investment of a data center, Amazon data center, and many other U.S. companies still have confidence in the South African economy. So for us, that is the strategic objective.
Yes. So I want to ask you, first of all, about the trade talks that are going on with the U.S. at the moment. And I'm aware that the U.S. is not the be-all and end-all for South African trade. You trade with many other countries, and it's a relatively small percentage, but an important one for some sectors. What is the sticking point? What is the US asking for, and are you prepared to make concessions? They may not be trade related. The Americans may be pushing for concessions on black empowerment, which we could talk about separately maybe later. On I don't know. There could be a whole range of issues that the US is demanding that South Africa make concessions on in order to ease the tariff burden. Are you at a phase where you can make those concessions? Where are you in your negotiations?
Yeah, indeed, the negotiations are continuing, and as you are aware, with the current administration, they remain unpredictable. We don't know what will be the end product, but we can confirm that indeed the negotiations are proceeding, and at this stage at a very positive level of engagement, exchange of notes. You will have seen the extension, a reprieve on PEPFAR, yep, which happened last week. There is also positive vibes coming out of Congress with regards to AGOA, which we also view as a very important platform. And obviously, with regards to the tariffs, we are awaiting the feedbacks, but the negotiations are going very well. There are indeed sticking points that you are aware of, yes, which we view as falling within the domestic issues, right, the sovereignty of South Africa.
Yes, so they're not up for negotiation.
Yes, they know. The issues of BEE, the issues of land reform, redistribution, and the false narrative of genocide, yes, which the world knows that is not a correct narratives, those obviously get thrown in from time to time. But we have insisted that these should be separated from the trade engagements so that we can come out with some solution. But it does look like the USTR see it indeed as an issue of separate discussion.
Yes.
But overall, at a strategic higher level, these issues are seen as part of the whole trade negotiations, if you may understand me. So from our side, we on the sovereign issues of BEE, land redistribution, and so forth, these are domestic issues that we think we have got sufficient safeguards in South Africa.
Right.
The parliament.
So you're not going to let them be dragged into these trade negotiations?
Yes, that's our view, because we have got sufficient safeguards. If parliament was not enough,
yes,
there is a court.
Yes.
The expropriation bill is in our constitutional court, which is very independent.
Yes.
So there is enough safeguards to deal with that, including even some of the Afrikaner farmers' organizations
yes,
support this approach by the South African government, that there is enough avenues through which they can ventilate, even when they disagree with
yes,
some of the policies that we have taken. And the Constitutional Court is one of those where the expropriation bill is. And domestically, we can handle this.
Is the American side, are they digging in? Are they insisting that you reopen those issues? Or have they accepted that these are sovereign issues for South Africa and you should just talk about trade?
Yes, they are insisting that they should reopen. But sometimes, as I've said, some of it is based on a clear misunderstanding of our domestic avenues.
Yes.
Sometimes it is a clear understanding, it's just an ideological issue.
Yep.
Because of the various quotas involved in the process, as you are aware, there is a number of South Africans sending the negative message. And one of the issues we have continued to clarify is that in terms of the land reform program in South Africa, compensation is part of it.
Yes.
And the issue of nil compensation, which is contested in the expropriation bill, the bill is clear that there are specific land parcels that can be expropriated without compensation. And they are clearly tabulated. But the principle is very clear. It's with compensation. And the Constitution does allow that in certain circumstances it can be done without compensation.
Yes.
So these are issues that we continue to engage on, but they are sticking on their point.
Okay.
And we are hopeful that we will be able to find each other.
Okay, I want to get on to G20 in a second, but just you mentioned positive vibes on AGOA. Now, AGOA, there were positive vibes, and then there was the government shutdown, and AGOA has expired. Are you saying that it is possible that AGOA will get the year extension once the American government gets back into action?
Yes, we remain positive that there could be a reprieve because it remains a very strategic platform of our trade with the U.S., but not only with the U.S., with some of the countries in the sub-Saharan African continent, but also you can't fully separate AGOA from the tariffs because the tariffs, they technically nullify AGOA.
Yes.
So that's why the negotiations also on the tariffs remains important, so that they still enable AGOA to function.
I see. Okay, let's turn to G20. You know, this is a historic moment. G20 is being chaired by an African country, a big opportunity. But you also, you know, we're in unusual times. You know, Trump said he's not going to turn up. You've got J.D. Vance. We don't know if you can have a communique at the end. You might comment on that. You've talked about wanting tangible outcomes. What tangible outcomes do you want, and what tangible outcomes can we expect from South Africa's chairing of the G20?
Yeah, thank you very much. Indeed, this is a big moment for us, and we're hoping that the world will not spoil it, they will support it. And we're glad that a number of countries have been supporting. We have had a lot of very good outcomes on the working groups meetings with a declaration, a number of them. But there has been a few without a declaration. And
yes.
because of the nature of the G20's constitutive platform, is that all countries need to agree on the declaration. It's a consensus-based organization. So there has been some of the working groups which don't have a declaration.
Okay.
So we are beginning to accept that that could also be the possibility for the Leaders Summit.
Yep.
But we do not think that it will have to water down what is our ambitious target in terms of the outcomes, because we are very looking forward to the outcomes that are ambitious, that will speak to the Global South, but also to shine a spotlight on the African continent, the transformation of the international financial architecture, financing for development, particularly now when a lot of money is being shifted to finance wars, and also financing for climate change mitigation. The African continent only received less than 3%, despite the fact that it's disproportionately affected by climate change. So these are two issues that we want to see, particularly on the transformation of the financial architecture, including the cost of capital,
Right.
which most developing countries.
So how concretely are you pushing for that? I mean, you know, people have been calling in the Global South and Africa specifically for, you know, more affordable capital. And yet, you know, the ratings agencies and the investors will say, well, we adjust that to risk. How are you going to break that logjam?
Is that the reason that we appointed our former Minister of Finance, Mr. Trevor Emmanuel, to chair the Commission on the Cost of Capital, which is going to deliver the report, a comprehensive report on how we can break this impulse with the institution, and also on issues related to critical minerals, because the African continent is endowed with the critical minerals. We are pushing for beneficiation at source, also empowered by the UN report on this subject. So we are looking forward that the outcomes of the G20 should speak to all these issues.
Right. I wanted to ask you about black empowerment. You probably think that this is a sort of an obsession of foreigners, but you know, I think that I would say that a consensus view is that black empowerment was a completely understandable policy post-apartheid, but that it's not working particularly well. That it's led to corruption in some cases, inefficiencies in some cases, and that the black majority, the majority of South Africans that the policy is there to help, may actually be hindering growth in the economy, and that it needs an overhaul. I mean, would you deny that? I mean, do you think that that is a wrong assessment of where we are with black empowerment at the moment? Does it need reforming in any sense?
Any policy needs reform, David. There's no static policy anywhere in the world. Countries continue to evolve. We are not an exception. And after democracy, there are policies that worked. There are those that didn't work, and we reviewed them. It's not an exception, black economic empowerment. It's part of what is evolving in a South African democracy. So if you look into the past 20, 30 years of BEE, it's not in the form it was when President Mandela started it and our current president. It evolved. We've added a number of regulations to make it broader, because we realized earlier on that it might have had some of the unintended consequences of benefiting a few. Then we broadened it. And I saw your article, the Financial Times, on Saturday. And I think it is based on a false premise that 1 trillion was distributed to a few airlines of about 100. I will be coming here with a private jet if that was if that was correct, David.
Cyril was offering it. Your president was offering it.
No, he said he doesn't have it. Unfortunately,
he did.
Yeah, but it's blatantly incorrect. 1 trillion is not possible. I think our stats are clear that it's about 320 billion rands that has been distributed. And that amount has been distributed to community benefit schemes, to workers, individuals. Yes, it's true. There could have been some elites, but and also some of the private companies, private partnerships. So there is a number of companies which have broadened it, which has benefited maybe about plus minus 400,000. So indeed, we have to continue to broaden it. And we should not throw the baby with the bathwater. So we can't say that it must be thrown altogether because it inhibits economic growth.
Right.
Companies in South Africa have invested with black economic empowerment being there.
Sure.
In the past,
We don't know if they would have invested more, of course. That's unknowable in a sense.
yeah, but in any country, there is localization, and they invest. In the
Yes.
US, is there. They invest here in the UK. They invest everywhere as long as the policy is clear.
Yep.
And it is clear that it's supposed to benefit everyone. With the history of South Africa, you do need the inclusion of the black majority in the economy. And the World Bank has stated very clear that the redistribution needs to be done. Itself, the World Bank says this is unsustainable. So it's clear that there must be intervention, particularly for the black majority, not only in terms of benefit schemes of companies, but also in terms of the skill.
Yeah.
The apartheid system has done a lot of damage
Absolutely.
in terms of the skilling of the black majority, which we are now focused on to skill them to come into the mainstream of the economy, to make the education system relevant to the needs of the,
Sure.
of the market. So that is also another aspect of black economic
Yes.
empowerment.
I mean, in a sense, you lead me, and I'm going to bring in the audience in a second, but I've just got a couple. I just want to turn to domestic politics. I mean, that leads me to another question. You have had, the ANC, now I'm talking about the ANC, has had 30 years. The electorate clearly last time round wasn't, enamored of the ANC. It got its lowest ever outcome. And now a lot of my South African friends are talking about this Madlanga commission, which has shown sort of corruption in the police force at really high levels, and some hints of collusion with some elements of the ANC. How damaging do you think this is? Can the ANC recover from this by the next electoral cycle?
Yeah, David, you have said 30 years. 30 years in a country is really nothing to undo all the 100 centuries of exclusion of the black majority. Here in Britain or in many countries where I visit, when I meet leaders of companies, they tell me this company was formed in 1830.
Yeah.
It moves from generations to generation.
Mind you, we kick out some of our prime ministers in a few days.
Yeah, we are almost like the first generation
Yes.
of black. So it will take generations to undo centuries of apartheid disempowerment. It is not going to happen in 30 years. And what is currently happening with the commissions of inquiries is because our system of democracy can withstand difficulties, including corruption that is happening. Mm-hmm. So as corruption happens, the commissions of inquiries come with recommendations, and there should be consequences, but also there will be recommendations of policy changes.
Yes.
So it will obviously damage, it might damage the integrity of the individuals involved, but there must be consequences for wrongdoing, for corruption, or for any maladministration. But our constitutional architecture allows for it to happen.
Yes.
The Commission of Inquiry was appointed by the President, who is also the President of the ANC. And when you look deeper, you also realize that it's not only ANC members that are uncovered for corruption. Even the DA in the city of Cape Town, there is corruption that is being uncovered. So corruption has got no color, black, white. All South Africans do get involved in corruption. But the position of the South African government is that whoever is involved in corruption, the law must take its course.
Right. Just one question on the GNU. I think investors like the GNU. They saw it as a kind of, possible path for new policies and new sort of political stability. How stable is the GNU? There was a moment over VAT, I think, where it nearly fell apart. How stable do you think it is? And does the GNU play into foreign policy at all, or is foreign policy an ANC holdout?
Again, it's the resilience of our system. Everyone thought that because the ANC has lost less than 50% of the last elections, everything is going to collapse. But because the constitution and the system is strong, our government continues to function. 10 parties, it's a record, working together in the GNU. I've seen in some countries in Europe is usually 2, 3, but 10 working together in the room for the better future of our country. It shows that our system are resilient, strong, and the reality is that in this environment, we have already seen outcomes that were started in the 6th administration or in the previous term. Operation Vulindlela.
Yes.
The network industries, the electricity situation, we had a challenge, load shedding.
Sure, and ESCOM has
so
definitely
forth.
improved,
ESCOM,
yeah.
it has improved. It was started in the previous term. Transnet, the logistic network, which investors always complain about. It is improving. The water situation is also improving. So it's
right?
clear it's clear that our focus on the network industries to achieve a particular level of economic growth is working. And the GNU has not disrupted the work that was started. Operation Vulindlela has released its outcomes that we are marching on. And we believe that we are on the right track, that in the outer years, maybe in the next 3 years, we could achieve 3% of economic growth, and later, at the later stage, maybe achieve our ambitious target of 5% economic growth. So indeed, the system is working, and we're marching on.
Okay. Thank you so much. Questions? One here. Please make the question brief. Identify yourself. Make the question brief. Thank you. There's a microphone being run to you.
Thank you very much. I'm Anders Johnson. I'm with the ILO, International Labour Organization. So, I'm sure as you know, it's a UN agency for the world of work. Part of our mandate is really the question of decent work and social justice. So I'm curious, at the talks that you've been having with the G20 or even with the US administration and elsewhere, do you still see an appetite for investing in these two things?
Definitely. Yes, it's part of some of the working groups, social justice, decent work. It is in one of the working groups, economic growth, social justice, and so forth. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, speaking under correction, there was a declaration out of the working group. So it's clear that there is an appetite to take the matter forward, and it will therefore be deposited for the Leaders' Summit in November.
Another question? No? I'm surprised. One here, and then I'll ask one.
Michael Mills from the UK Department of Energy Security, but I asked this question in my personal capacity, as both as an investor and in South Africa and as a dual British-South African national. Minister, bring two things together, BEE and the Government of National Unity. I see BEE as a brake on international and inward investment. Has the DA's presence in the coalition government put a focus on reform of BEE or replacement of it? And can you tell us a bit more about the sort of plans for reforming it? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. As I've already said, in the last administration, we launched what is called Operation Vulindlela to focus on the reforms. And we have released the report of Operation Vulindlela in terms of its impact to the network industries, energy being one of them, as I've already said, logistics, and so forth. And the DA, whether it has put a focus on BE in the GNU, the platform of the GNU is for the governance of the country, which we are all working on together to build and govern the country. I've seen the DA yesterday releasing their blueprint on BEE, which they oppose as a party. But that is not a government policy, or has that been introduced as a government policy. They've introduced it as a political party, which we are ready to debate in our domestic system, as I've already said. And I believe the ANC and all other parties will engage with this topic in Parliament. But the government of national unity is continuing to put focus on measures of economic growth, as I've already said, the network industries, and what we need to continue to do as government. And David asked whether it also has an impact on foreign policy. What happened when we started with the government of national unity, there was something called a statement of intent, which all parties signed. And the statement of intent outlined what we need to do in foreign policy, human rights outlook, the constitution of the country, which continues to guide us, what we have in South Africa called the national interest document, Agenda 2063 of the African Union, the SDGs. So that is what guides us on foreign policy, and we continue to implement that.
Okay, we have run out of time, but I'm going to ask, okay, question back here.
Minister Alec Russell from the Financial Times, colleague of David's. So in recent years, South Africa on the world stage has sought, I think it's fair to say, to sort of juggle its relationship with Washington with a relationship with Beijing. And I wonder whether you think at some stage South Africa, well, one, how difficult is that now? And two, are you going to have to choose at some stage?
Yeah, it's a difficult balancing act, as the question acknowledges. It's true, it's a difficult balancing act, but historically we have continued to be guided by the Bandung principles of non-alignment as a country. It's correct that with the current US administration, there is a push to not only South Africa, any country to choose because of what comes out as the America First policy. But as a developing country, we are not in any position to choose anyone. We need all international partners to support our development. So we are not in a position to choose anyone between the US and China or any other person. But we see ourselves as non-aligned, and that's why our president also continues to play a role in the various conflicts across the globe, engage with all partners.
Well, exactly, but you are a country that has, in the past, sort of had a reputation for a moral authority, which you've shown, I would argue, in the Gaza, in the war in Gaza. I would suggest you've shown that less in the war in Ukraine, where you've been more ambivalent in your condemnation of Russia.
No, we've never been ambivalent. Our president, until recently with President Trump, was the only head of state who could speak to President Zelensky and President Putin, requested by President Biden to play that role. So we're never ambivalent. We have been very clear, and we have also been clear about the UN Charter in terms of the territorial integrity of Ukraine. So we have been very clear. And as you are aware, our president also recently hosted President Zelensky to convey the message. And he also sent the same message to President Putin. So up to now, we have been the only country, except obviously now with President Trump. But I believe if we're not one of those African countries, we could be the leading negotiating platform for Russia and Ukraine. But, Africa always has to come from, But that's the reality. Our president has engaged with President Putin, conveyed a message to President Zelensky, and we have played that role. And I believe that if at this stage, even our partners in the European Union, who have been very good to us with the European Gateway, and also a summit with South Africa, are also coming to appreciate this role.
Okay, this thing is flashing horribly red at me.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you, when are you going to appoint an ambassador to Washington, and is it going to be Alistair Reuters? You can tell, it's going to be a scoop.
No, it will be very soon.
Very soon.
Yeah, very soon.
Like,
Very soon.
very soon means what? This week? Next week?
Yeah, very soon.
Very soon.
Yes. But I can say that I always put a rider that our ambassador in Washington was expelled by the U.S. Administration.
Yes.
It's not like we didn't have an ambassador. So the ambassador was expelled. We needed to take our time to assess so that we send the right candidate to Washington that ourselves are comfortable with, and also the receiving states. And you know, the unpredictability of Washington. We have to be sure.
And is
so
Alistair
very soon-
Reuters, is that warm,
very
cold?
Soon, no, I can't. It's for the president to announce who is the person.
Okay.
My pay grade only allows me to say soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Minister. Excellent sparring there. Great to watch. You got a little appetizer there about the forthcoming Johannesburg summit and the G20, and we're going to carry that on in our next panel. We're joined by an array of experts, chaired by one Monica Mark, our Southern Africa Bureau Chief. So let us welcome to the stage Hanan Morsi from the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Mariana Mazzucato from UCL, and also an advisor to the South African G20 presidency, and Kaz Kuvadia from the B20, the business engagement part of the summit, the South Africa Sherpa there. Please give them a warm welcome.